In the heart of Africa, a new battle is being waged, not with weapons, but with ideas, determination, and unyielding ambition. This is Founders Battlefield, a movement where today's African founders share their scars to illuminate the path for tomorrow's entrepreneurs. Michael Anthony Macharia, a serial entrepreneur and mentor with 25 years of triumphs and tribulations, ignited this vision. It is not merely his story, it is a clarion call for founders across Africa to unite, share their unfiltered experiences, and forge a legacy for the next generation. Over the years, Michael has connected with a group of passionate individuals who have not only braved the entrepreneurial battlefield, but are also dedicated to championing this initiative and now form the Founders Battlefield Collective. AfricanFounders wage a battle in entrepreneurship on both external and internal fronts. They confront formidable obstacles such as a low trust, political maneuvers, and gatekeepers standing watch over corridors of opportunity. Internally, they contend with self-doubt, sacrifice, mental well-being, strained relationships, and the pursuit of identity. This movement unveils these unvarnished truths to empower those who follow in their footsteps. From these battles emerge 30 pivotal lessons, hard-earned wisdom from over 120 founders who have weathered the fire. These stories are shared not as boasts, but as guiding lights, offering a roadmap for the dreamers and doers of tomorrow. This movement comes to life through a 30-episode video podcast, raw and unfiltered, alongside 12 live stage series, X spaces to take the conversation to a global audience, the founder masterclasses to impart unspoken knowledge, and a Day with the Founder TV series that will reveal the very essence of the journey, offering tools and tales for the next wave of visionaries. The credit belongs to those in the arena, those who dare greatly, embracing the struggle, the sweat and the setbacks. Whether triumphant or defeated, true honor lies in showing up, striving, and refusing to stand alongside the timid souls who fear to try. Join the movement and learn from those who have paved the way, shaping the future of African entrepreneurship.
Why are we here? You'd have been playing golf. You'd have been doing something else. You'd have been going to see some art. We committed. You talked about you're giving your time, right? I think if we have this content definitely it's going to be a global content, there must be somebody who's thinking, really, I think I need to move, right? What you've said could inspire the next guy to make that move. So I hope in terms of what we're sharing in terms of Founders Battlefield is eventually to be that place where sometimes you're disillusioned. You can just go and realize, really, you're not the only person thinking about this. You could just ignite that passion in somebody who is sort of at the brink of, do I do, don't I? What I do. Do people think I'm crazy? Don't people think I'm crazy? Maybe, Renee, your conversation today is going to inspire the next guy who's about to quit their job and say, hey, I'm going to quit. I'm going to do this. So I'm very happy that you guys came here because you're lighting the fire for the next set of entrepreneurs or the founders who have just been sort of second-guessing themselves. Do I do, don't I?
Don't I?
What I do. So over to you. Thank you for that.
I dare say this, and I draw this lesson again from these amazing women that I work with who, so broken and so broke, have no choices, and therefore they have to create their own environment. I dare say this, there is no next generation. There isn't another one.
That's true.
There isn't. It's us. It's us. You've asked the question, who should convene this? I'm waiting for your 3 names. I'm waiting for yours. I'm going to come and I'm going to call the 4, and I'm waiting for yours so that we solve this one. Because if you look throughout history, whether it is the stories of the rises of the families such as the proverbial Rothschilds, or it is the rebuilding of Germany after 2 world wars, 2 devastating wars.
Devastating.
If you look at
Everything gone.
Japan.
It is Japan. Or even, let's not go far. Let's fly 1 hour due west. Rwanda.
Rwanda, yeah.
It has never been some people who are coming. It has never been another generation. It has never even been the most skilled people who had the greatest technical whatnot went to. It was always the coalition of the willing who refused to die on their knees. And I think very strongly that's what we need to do.
And when I reflect about it, I'm like, these are some of the most innovative people, obviously.
100%.
Of course.
Who are these people who sat in a room, put these resources together, had the technical know-how to reverse engineer algorithms, had the technical know-how to enter the system and then disburse money? Where are these guys? Why are they not entrepreneurs in the white market? Right? It's because of that one foolish decision that somebody switched off, cancelled a contract, right? That took away opportunity. And you see, and that's my point, right? Low trust societies take away opportunities from intelligent people, right? And it wasn't just you.
It's not like we don't have pockets where that happens. Are those pockets significant enough to be able to raise the funds that are needed by checkups, by 7Cs technology, by an entire industry of creatives who should be churning out what is ours called, Riverwood? We should be churning out, the films, the songs, the stars that our Buddhas should not only be trusted. I'm just back from Rwanda and having, for the first time, ever taken a Buddha, because I would not do so in Kenya. I do have.
No, we have
children.
great Buddhas. I'll introduce you to some of the
Like
best
this,
in
yes,
Kenya. You'll get a helmet.
That's great.
They've got a nice bike.
I think, and that would be great. And I think that's also the point, that what I noticed is everyone had to wear a helmet.
Yes.
And had to wear a reflector.
Indeed.
And that the rider had them for you. And we couldn't ride two, what is it, 2 pillion or, like two on the back of the...
It's 1 pillion passenger.
It's 1 pillion
Yeah, so
passenger,
2
and
on
that
the
is
bike
the
maximum.
that is the law. Whereas here, it's me, the kid, my backpack, which is a separate story. But leading all to the rules, the regulations, the structure, and the underlying presumptions and principles that create either a high level of trust or a low level of
I
trust.
moved along, you realize that you sign contracts in good faith. You don't necessarily sign them with the basis that somebody's going to break them, right? And then I also realized even furthermore that some of the bigger brands that I worked with, some of them, I realized that it is in a whim that your contract gets cancelled. Think about today, if you're a USAID, you're working for USAID. Today you don't have a contract, right? Whether or not it's great you have a contract or not, it's an issue of trust. Maybe you sign knowing one day the contract will never get cancelled. But today it's cancelled. You deal and you move. So the issue of trust then starts getting eroded across your ecosystem, because you give commitments. You give commitments to banks. You give commitments to employees. You give commitments to shareholders. Then that whole trust deficit now from the initial part of your business starts crumbling across the whole ecosystem. It can even easily go to your family, because then they say, okay, you're the crazy guy who went to do this project. Nobody realizes that you did it because everything looked great, legit. Right? So for my case, and I think speaking from having healed from this whole journey, it's one of those moments. Trust, it breaks your heart, right? And then it makes you, what kind of person do you become post that? True. Do you become vengeful? Do you become bitter? Do you become pessimistic?
My dad found me planting a tree one time, and he asked me, that shadow, the shade of that tree, who does it belong to? I didn't understand it then. Now I understand that he was not asking about what the shade was about. It was about my kids. They're the ones who are going to enjoy that particular shade. And that has also changed the way I see things.
I don't even think I would be innovating if this had not happened to me.
Yeah.
I would be, I'm happy. Let's go to the club. Let me go and swim a bit. Let me go to Naivasha. Let me enjoy the rally car. Let me do whatever. And maybe one of those things would have killed you anyway.
The Native American tribe known as the Iroquois, and they have this thing called the 7th generation principle. So every time the chiefs would meet to make a decision for their village or their society, they would ask themselves, who am I representing 7 generations from now? And how does the decision I make now as a person who represents those people 7 generations from now impact them, right? And you find that when you start thinking that long term, you start making your decisions slightly different. And there's trust, because I need to trust that the other person is also making the decision based using that same framing, so that our objective is long-term, not short-term. And until we solve that in Kenyan society, I don't think we're going to go really far. And we'll have to sort of start building these communities of entrepreneurs. Like in America, you know, like the conversation we had that day was about the Jewish people in America.
Yes.
Right? How have they built that community?
But we'll come to that.
Yes, of course.
Because at some point, Kevin will have to come and figure out why our society today, Kenya, operates the way it is. Is it a Kenyan issue? Is it an Africa issue?
Yes.
Is it yet we are a highly religious society?
Yes.
What's the issue, right?
Yes.
But we'll come to that, right?
My point is that we now have to start creating these micro ecosystems within
100%.
society to build this sort of high trust ecosystem so that we can save our society, for lack of a better word.
And I like the examples you're giving. So you need to give us more examples like that. I like the Indian approach and the conversation around that. It's great.
Native American.
Native American. So, and also the Jewish thing you told me the other day about that how the comradeship was very interesting. I'm not trying to tell anybody not to start a business. I think you should start. I think the first journey is for us being honest.
Yes.
Being honest. And I think we need to start by being honest, having this conversation. Right?
I think Renee brought out a very interesting point about culture. And for me, I'm in the creative cultural industry. And you're right. But I wouldn't dismiss culture in totality. It would be now more of an issue of class. Because down at the base of the pyramid, there's still trust. The minute you walk into a particular place, you'll find that decent courtesy will mean that if your car breaks down in the middle of Katangi, for example, I was there a few weeks ago, people will be actually coming out to help you. It breaks down in Nairobi, you're not too sure who's coming, whether they're coming to assist or they're coming to do forced change of ownership of certain things. Yeah? And so I remember saying this, that our economics or our business is actually based on our social construct. The question is, what will your kids say if caught up in that situation? That's the legacy I want to build, a good name. It's not about wealth, it's not building, but it's a good name. And also helping people realize, by the way, you're not alone. Those things that God wants you to have are in you. I'm hoping that Art at Work will be able to take those skills, monetize them. Once they monetize them, go back to He who gave it to you for free, without prayer, without asking for it. He gave it to you by grace, and reconcile yourself with Him. That's our evangelism, that's our ministry, period.
And today's topic, which is around fear in scaling from corner to giant shop, really addresses the conversation on what it takes to build a business and how you move from being a kiosk, as we call it in Africa, and then to a major conglomerate. And it's not easy. So we are going to explore the challenges, the intrigues, the impact it has to you as an individual, the societal pressure, and also at the same time, the whole political alignment towards you becoming a big brand in your own country, and also as you grow this brand to become a global organization.
You have to dust yourself up. What do? You're not going to die. You dust yourself up, go to the next gig. So what we are doing today, I need to thank you for this. We have to arm the people behind us with this knowledge that our entrepreneurs, I really used to admire, I won't name them, these top old money guys, they never told us. If they had sat with us and told us this is what you should consider, then we would have done better. And there is no business school that will ever teach. Business school is theory. Mm-hmm. You have to go to the trenches. So I hope I've answered your question in a long roundabout.
No, I think it's great the way you've elaborated. And as you talked about mentors, and now we are becoming mentors.
Yes.
There's one person who really, I think, helped me, who never told me, don't give up or don't fear to scale. I had a very good mentor called James Gashui. You remember James?
I remember, yeah.
Very sad that people who are such visionary die early. I know him. Let me go and talk to him. No, he just goes, Mike, let's go to the meeting. Imagine the guy leaves what he's doing. He goes with me to Rwanda for 3 days.
He believed in you.
Just sits with me. He takes me, let's go see somebody else. Not because he's lobbying for me. He just wants to open the doors without saying anything. I tell him, I need to get a project at KRA. He tells me, I persuade because idea, even though the chairman and CEO is my friend, I'd rather you go yourself.
I was heavily mortgaged when I left employment. Why? Because I believed in myself so much. I am not the girl you fire. I'm the girl you hire. So how would I not be able to pay my mortgages? Yet I am supposed to be in employment. Whatever I touch turns to gold. This is what we believe. And these are the stories that we need to look at. So we are telling our children, even when you are going for that government business, you need to do a feasibility study. Don't also get caught up in the quick money. Entrepreneurship is not about quick money. Yes, your friends will make quick money. But unless, I talked about the story of the engineer, until you build the foundation, I'm telling you, there's nothing called deal. Deal itakuja, but the deal will slay you. It will burn you. Because it will also put you in a lifestyle that you are not accustomed to, and that will actually even deplete what you have invested. For me, that would be what I would tell a younger person.
Interesting you've mentioned. I don't know. I bought a building as a business on Riverside.
Yes.
You have two options. One option is to build multiple customers, who then you distribute your risk. But in my case, my first risk was building my business first through private sector and having one large customer who controls 70% of my business. Now, what happens in a business like that, if, for instance, you're doing $1 billion plus from one customer, and there's a change of management in that customer, because CEOs change, management change, the next thing, without realizing, all of a sudden, because you're doing massive business with that customer, because of change of management, there's such significant level of political headwinds that hit you. And all of a sudden you realize that the same customer that you're serving diligently, the politics within the organization become your biggest challenge. And we move from, believe it or not, we move from $1 billion shillings revenue from this customer to less than 50 million within 14 months.
You have to plan for today, next year. For next year, you have to do it today. So those are some of the things that I learned when I was trying to scale a business. Then going out into other countries, the challenges of the unknown. You don't know where you're going. You walk into Uganda, the people there, I have seen so many of my friends go to countries, even where you are told it's very easy to actually go and set up a business. But the business partners you get there, what happens? They're waiting to milk you dry. Anybody who is sitting now and is looking at the global economics and how things are moving, I know people who had a sole client as USAID.
Yes.
You can imagine what is happening to their business. Now they have shut down, they have no revenues coming in. Then also, don't jump for every client because you're scaling.
But the mistake we made, we had not properly sized the market. When we went in and realized the market was too small for our specialist skill. Remember, at that time, we were only dealing with one aspect of advertising. So after about a year, we had to shut down the business. It was just not viable.
I can tell you, governments will always be in your life as an entrepreneur. Greed will always be there. People are greedy. The issue of risk card will always remain because some people have, it's just life. So don't try and change those things. Next one is also people and talent. I think your business is purely around human beings.
Yes, correct.
Fully about human beings. Without human beings, if you sacrifice human beings in your business, then you have an issue, right? Then the next one is also scarcity versus abundance mentality. What happens, as you said, some people want you to fail. Think about it. And some people will encourage you to succeed. The last thing we also talked about is trust. So a guy who gave you the business trusted you. Yeah. Sometimes it's about trust, right? When we build business, a lot of business with Safaricom, as when we were a big integrator for them, everybody used to say that Michael Joseph and I are good friends. Michael, to be honest, I barely even had dinner with Michael Joseph. I don't know Michael Joseph, I know him from arm's length.
But that was also very tough because I go to Tanzania And the Tanzania government, the first thing they tell me, we cannot accept this brand because it doesn't have the word insurance in the name for your business. So you have to register a company with the word insurance in it. And I did. And for that reason, I had to become a general insurer. They didn't have a category for health insurance. Remember, I'm a monoline player. I'm not a general insurer.
When you say monolith, you mean like?
One product. I used to do health only. That's what I mean, since the 90s, that's all I had done, and I understood it. But now you're being forced to bring new skills. You need to understand the culture. You enter in the Tanzania market, first of all, before you sell the product, you have to explain Bima ya Afya, what it means to the person. Then you sell the product to them. So you're not only introducing the industry, your brand, then your product.
The second instance was a time when people were being promoted, and they would always bring white people from outside. Black guys who are there, who are even like deputy MD, are passed over. Somebody else comes in and is put in there because they're white. And there was a time even when we had one guy who was coming to replace an MD who had resigned. This guy had first of all was being brought in as a GM, then he got promoted to deputy MD and then to MD before he landed in Kenya. When he landed, he was a disaster. I mean, like, you get a CEO, their first memo is that no one should have more than 2 teaspoons of sugar. What kind of person is that? Those are not qualified for the position. So for the first time ever in this company's history, we had a rebellion, and we said we're not going to work with this CEO. So they had to get rid of him. And what did they do? They brought in another white guy who actually used to report to me and now became my CEO. That's when we realized that there was a black ceiling. Not a glass one, a black one. And that's when we decided we have to leave and get out of this company, but also make sure that anytime we have a company, whatever company we're going to build, people are going to be promoted on merit and nothing else.
I always remember a statement I have never forgotten. Like when I was doing all the scaling of Safaricom, I took a lot of time in there. And my own sister told me something. I have never admired you. And I'm thinking, what do you mean? I am such a success. And she told me, I don't admire you, Pauline. And I asked her why. Because your child is even my child.
You are not present.
You get? So that scalability, you also have to learn what are the sacrifices that you have to make at that particular time. And she told me, I never want to be promoted to those levels of yours.
Politicians are back in business. No, during the Kibaki regime, they stayed away from you. There are many times you have to have night meetings. If someone tells you I want 20% of your business, for protection. And in addition, you need to pay me X amount of money per month. And then you just wonder, I am building a business, I'm raising capital to serve you. So, but they don't go to unsuccessful businesses. So sometimes you need to keep your businesses from the limelight. So, you may have to. Then, for me, I advise on the governance side, make your chairman, maybe get an ex-CS or an ex-government person, so you don't want PEP.
But then you have your
PEP. So no, but maybe who has retired. There are many politicians who left, or people who, like my mentor who has also the chairman of my business, Dr. Steve Mainda. A lot of people don't know him, but he's been in that space. He's ran in the national housing. He's a seasoned entrepreneur, seasoned governance expert. There are people of that nature. So if I want to maneuver the corridors of government, he's able to help me. But he's not a politician. He's not PEP.
Bank is saying I don't care about contribution for now. Me, I care about significance. Hence, I want to be seen a bank to you. Is that correct? This is already, you're very misaligned, right? The third one, maybe my third one could be love and connection. Maybe for me, I really care about the people I'm doing business with. I don't want to shatter the whole thing. But maybe for the bank, love and connection is musho. Maybe the PE fund you're investing with, love and connection is huko mwisho, right? So think about what happens. You're so misaligned, right, that even trying to put you guys together, because when you rank those things, right, you find you're so misaligned. So what I found when I spend time with people I want to do business with, and I told them to rank, and I do the ranking, you see where you're so different. Your growth is more altruistic.
I'm sure that I can't do employment, and that's I've got that moment where I know that employment is just not going to work for me. So the only thing I have left now is that I have to start doing something other than working for someone. So you leave a good paying job as an IT manager at the age of 21, you come back home from studying abroad, and you're in a typical Indian household family, and you tell your parents that you're quitting the job after having been educated, all the pain they've gone through. And they're like, what do you mean you're quitting? You know, you have to give it a chance. I probably sound like the Gen Zs of that time. And I was like, no, I just cannot work. And I made up my mind, and I quit the job, and I would sit in my room wondering, what is it I'm going to do? At 8 o'clock, I'd be ready, wearing a tie and sitting on my sofa in my room.
I feel what I've experienced, what I know is that there are certain financial institutions that lend you money, but you know they're very predatory. You know, when things go wrong, these ones, they're going to be things are going to fall apart. And we all know, right? And there's some financial institutions, you know, they may not be as aggressive, but they will try their level best to work with me until. So that's also a culture based on the person you're about to entangle yourself with. Correct? It's a culture, right? But now, how do you balance between, I really need this capital, okay? It's a very emotional thing. How do I balance between, I really need this capital vis-a-vis the person I'm about to entangle with? I know it's mafia here.
It's not a balance, it's a decision.
Sometimes when you're getting this money, you need to interview the investor. You need to know more about them. They are doing all the due diligence on you. Are you doing the due diligence on them? Because if you're lacking to do the due diligence because you just want the money, then you're going to face huge problems when things go south. Right? If they're going north, great for you, good, enjoy it. But now when things go south, like Edwin, you were saying, when guys, you have promised, the promise is the same. You're giving that aspiration of good living, that nothing has changed, right? Your goal is there. Maybe your tactic has to change. The strategy has to change now to maneuver and to adjust to the environment. But that guy doesn't understand that because the pressures on him are too high. So he now comes and put pressure on you.
Are you backing the individual? Or are you backing the business? That's not something we need to talk about. And sometimes, if you think about it, in Africa, 15 years is really when we start backing the business and not the entrepreneur. So backing the entrepreneur becomes so important that even when we raised private equity from Orios, it again, the main angel investor who was backing me, who then convinced the private equity company to also back me, but then the numbers were adding up at that particular moment. But moving on, when we finally even raised additional capital from private placement, brought individuals on the table, told them, look, guys, I'm going to list the business. I'm going to be in the stock market. The numbers are looking great. We even started having conversations with the Nairobi Stock Exchange to be listed by introduction.
Your business is a tool around it. Okay? Now, how do they know that they're making money when they invested with you? There has to be a method, right? So what they do is they look for other investors to come and buy into your business at a higher valuation than they had bought, right? So if they succeed in that, they know their investment was right and it's growing. So let's say they've invested in you $1 million, right? And you went into the market, they invested into you when you were $5 million. Now they want to raise another $1 million, but they want to raise at a $20 million valuation. And they succeed. Now they know their money is growing. Okay, great. Up to this point, we're all good because everything is going well, the money is doing good. But now, what when things go wrong and these people want to start exiting, right? At some point, they have to exit because these PE funds have money for 5 years, 7 years.
So as people leave, they replenish your business. So that solves my problem. But that I had to regroup. I had to come back and figure out how do I deal with that issue. It took time to figure out. Then moving on to look at disappointments. of projects, to lose the projects. I said, realizing I figured out that the only way to win projects that I'm guaranteed, I need to architect these projects from inception. I need to be the only one with the capacity to execute this project, right? And that's how I ended up building massive projects. Because at some point, we were the only company capable at that price point to execute such large projects in the country. Even today, there are many companies that can execute projects that 7C Technologies could do in the market. Then we moved on to figure out how do you deal with a situation where you're trying to build a business and anything can happen. Then you diversify risk. You start realizing there's country risk. Yeah, you have a country risk issue. You start realizing, do I keep my business, all my eggs in one country as a business? Do I diversify and start creating what you call structures that allow me to export intellectual property at a global level, right?
So you don't know what to do nothing. If you're faced with a challenge and you're not sure, do I go? Is this go time? Is it not go time? Do we wait? Who do we bring in? I'll sit on it for a little bit. I'll let it marinate. And I'll let the people who have been impatient be impatient. And I'll let the people who are willing to wait. I'll just sit on it. I'll sit on it till, you can also tell how long you can sit on something. That 747 of yours, you know that it can be over here in stasis for 2 days or for 2 weeks or for a year. So I'll push it to the brink. I'll be like, I'm going to leave this to see how far it can go. And somewhere in between, I find that things always fall into place. The people who are meant to be there come. The people who are not meant to be there go. Yeah. The universe just settles itself.
I was jailed wrongfully. And you know what? I'm establishing an organization called Clean Start Africa to give myself a clean start and the other millions of other women that you have jailed in there wrongfully. And this is how we're going to ride this chaos together. As you're reporting the negative news, here I am rewriting and in charge of the narrative. At the end of the day, truth does not need defending. It always comes on top. The genuine ingenuity, the genius that's in you, it will always come on top.
Wow. And that's how you started Clean Start Africa.
I think spirituality has been important for me to keep me grounded, right? And when I say spirituality, I've gone up and down this from Christianity to New Age spirituality to everything in between, right? Really looking for groundedness. So I've spent a lot of time searching and trying to find the true purpose of life and the true purpose of why we're here. And I've gone down many rabbit holes. But when it comes to business, I believe in the power of flow. I'm like, if you're trying to do something and it's not working, that is God, that's the universe telling you that you're not meant to be doing it. But then Sisi Wajinga, they are over there pushing, insisting that this thing must happen, right? So I believe in the power of flow. Flow and instinct. Those are the two biggest ways that I think the universe and that God communicates to you. If something, and every time I've gone against my gut instinct, something has gone wrong down the road, and you're like, I knew it. I knew I shouldn't have done this thing. And sometimes your gut instinct is so strong, you can feel it in your blood. You know how you just feel, yes, I should not be doing this thing, but it's such a big deal that I can't say no. Let me just go for it. It's not even about values. There's just something in it that your soul tells you no, but you're just pushing, right? Yeah. So follow your instincts and flow. When you'll always find when something is meant to work out for you, it always just works out.
I think I'd say on my part, it's a realization that what got you here won't get you there. I think in the early days of your enterprise, you actually just have to do the 18-hour days. And even
not the early days forever, for a very long time.
No, at some time it has to be even a 20-hour days, but as you're saying, on Monday, you actually don't do hours. So the 24/7 not knowing what holiday it is, like for me, you even become a fixture in your office. You're like a lamp. People expect to come to your office, they'll find you there. That guy doesn't do anything else. But what got you from, let's say, the first level is not what will get you to the second level. And taking ownership of that and realizing that, as you're saying, in some situations, less is more. So not every idea you also have, you have to execute. You can give ideas to others and actually even invest in them and earn money in your sleep, as you're saying. So that maturity that comes with time and age as an entrepreneur, because I might be 23, but I've been an entrepreneur for 7 years. My first business started when I was quite young. And some of these things you just have to accept and own where you are. And then you'll be able to understand when it's time for hibernation and when it's time for blooming, and flow is also important. So not to force anything and not to force a season. If it's not your time to bloom, then it's your time.
For you to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to be a little bit delusional.
True.
Like you have to look at, I think you look at the eyes, you look at the world through rose-colored glasses. Like you see things in ways that other people don't see it. If you tell people your thought, and so I don't talk a lot about what's going on in my head. Because if I say it out loud, guys will look at me like I have lost my mind.
Yeah.
And then they'll start making me doubt myself. And I don't need that negativity. It's not negativity, it's not intentional negativity, but I'm like, you know what, just leave me in my delulu by myself.
Yes.
I know where I'm going, it's fine. And then if it doesn't work, you know, it will work. Cautious optimism, right, is what we call it. Cautious optimism in that don't put all your money behind it thinking it's going to work, because if it doesn't work, you don't want to lose all your money. But at the same time, a little bit of delusion is required.
You know, there's something called effort without evidence.
Yes.
You know, you work so hard, you've raised capital, you've built infrastructure, you've hired people, like what you said. But when you turn back and say, my God, do I have anything to show for it? Jesus. Do you have anything to show for what I've done? I'd like you to talk to you what happens when you have nothing to show? And despite investing so much, because when I look at your story, and I think you can, because I know your beat, you can talk about the effort, the amount of investment you did to one day turn around and realize, my God, 37 years of my life gone.
Yeah.
And I have nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
And what happens to you when you get to that point?
Yeah. I think nothing to show for it will be a good thing. If I left with no money, I'd have been a happier person. I left with debt. So when you're leaving, you're not like, okay.
So you have something to show for it, but negative.
Negative. So you're like, okay, if I just sat at home and did nothing, I'd be better off than I am now. But the thing is, I've learned a lot over the years. One of the key things I've learned is that situations are what you make them. So this idea that this suffering produces diamonds is objectively hogwash. Help entrepreneurs get rid of their problems, they will thrive. This idea that it's somehow some military boot camp, we're not invading Poland. You know, the Nazi period ended. Hitler died. Why are we trying to recreate that?
Amazing. Very good. So you've said you're not going to suffer anymore.
Why? If I wanted to suffer, okay, look, the people who want to suffer, you want mortification, I'd become a priest. I'd go somewhere. But the idea is to create value, not pain. Why think about the logic of punishing the very people you're depending on to create value in your economy. You're looking at entrepreneurs and you're like, you're the source of jobs, source of innovation, source of export, source of all these things. But you know what? We are going to make it hard for you to create a better world for us. How does that make sense?
One thing you said.
It was literally, I think, like giving up my child for adoption because they can take care of the child better than I can. Huge, huge, huge decision and painful in many ways. It was a 6-month-long process, by the way. It wasn't people. And then my regular clients were like, "How can you do this to us?" I'm like, "Well, I'm not doing this for us, not to you, because the brand still is there for you. And if I didn't do that, it wouldn't exist. Like it would have died, I would have died, like both of us. In fact, I told my husband one time around that time. You know, we were like struggling. And I was like, you know what? If somebody tells me, you know, those garbage trucks that pick up taka, I'm like, if you tell me go live in there for 3 months, only in there, you have to do everything in there and eat in there, and all this will disappear, I would do it. Yeah.
But to be honest, it's the worst job on earth. Like, it's the hardest thing to do. Like, you imagine you're entering something which statistically only 1% of people ever make it out. Like, really, this is how is that glamorous? and what is that? Because they are made it to look like that. Then, and you get the high of your first sale, or the high of your projections. You you imagine there's an audience cheering. And usually you post, everyone there says, oh, great, good job, great job. Let me tell you, no one who has ever bought from you was there posting. The guys who post have no intention of buying from you. So you imagine there's an audience. And so so what you think is, and I'll give an example. Because we're here because we're entrepreneurs, and let me talk about one of my children. This one, and I tell you, so the idea of entrepreneurship is the idea to stop working. We have to say that. You're starting business so that you don't work. You don't start business so that you work harder. You work business so that it works for you and gives you money and you don't work. A successful entrepreneur should be here in this club every day doing nothing. So how is it that we think entrepreneurship is working?
For me, the way I look at it, I think there was one day a realization. I was playing golf, and I remember, you know how you hit the ball into the woods. I remember playing, and there I was looking for my ball. It was lost. Okay, and I was so caught up in the ball, I never saw the ants. So the ants got into my
pants.
Into my pants. So before I knew it, in Limuru, I was removing my pants. And the ball was no longer important. I was looking at my other assets.
The other ball.
Those assets, now I figured out, my God. So I realized, all of a sudden, I don't know, it dawned on the next hole, as I played, I thought to myself, you know, the ball was no longer relevant. It is my other assets that wind, the ants thing. Then I figured out, my God, you know, sometimes you could be doing something over and over, you're not realizing, you're not really moving forward. So I figured out, what is it they want? Money in the pocket. So I figured out that if you give this, money speaks. At the end of the day, you need to find out their Kool-Aid. Is it money? Is it impact? They don't care about impact at that point. So I figured I need to put money in their pocket. So I said, okay. So I made a drastic decision, which is why it comes to the issue of experience versus experimentation. I began experimenting. So I used to have an office in where Electric Avenue is. So I brought these employees. I got them houses. I rented houses, 6 houses, 5 houses. I put 3 people in each house, 3. So I said, this house, you have 3 people. I got a maid. The maid would be sharing across multiple houses. I provided food. So these guys were living walking distance from the house, from the office. 5 minutes, 7 minutes. So there's no more traffic in the evening, no more 2 hours. So maximum commute is 14 minutes. So I knew I'd gotten from these guys at least 3 hours of their additional time in their life to now use that effort to learn. That extra time, I'm gonna push education down their throats. So I invested significant amount of money in equipment, training, material. I had like a whole like library and equipment and server rooms. So I said, these guys, in the extra time, they're gonna be in this place. But then I told them, I convinced them, okay, that what's the total amount of money PwC would pay you?
So now with this whole thing, if you're gonna bring in a mercenary, in the end, even if they're your best star performer from a competence, if they have a bad attitude, they're gonna bring everyone down. In the end, it's gonna corrode your culture. You're not gonna be able to deal with them. And I think a lot of people face that issue and they're gonna bring toxicity around them. So if I was to advise between both, I think you can teach someone. You saw that. You train them. You bring someone on. Especially with startups, I think the attitude is what's important because you want someone roll up their sleeves, do what you need, redesign, change things. And that competence could change. So it depends on competence for what. You're hiring competence to redesign. That's the competence you want, not competence in one area. And we already learned from the world of AI, competence is shifting. You need somebody who can change mindset, adapt, do those things. So that's what you're hiring for.
The first thing I told them, in my workshop was that CEO is not a title, it is a mindset. Okay? And I'm very careful. I think I saw one of your notes was like, why don't we have employees work like founders? I don't expect employees to work like founders. I mean, as founders, we have put everything at stake. I put in all of my life savings behind this company. The skin in the game for me is never going to be the same as the skin in the game for a young employee. So I don't expect them to work like founder, but I do expect them to think and act like a CEO of an organization. We also say that we are not a family. So we had this very interesting conversation with my team, said, we are not a family. We are like a well-organized sports team. We have come together to perform a function. This is what we need to achieve as a milestone. And we're going to put together an exceptional team of people, make sure that extremely well trained and well coached. Of course, there's a difference between training and coaching. There's a lot of focus that we're doing now in the organization on coaching and not just training. And then going to build this team together to achieve the goal that we want to achieve. So within like, in the last 2 years, we've grown from like, I think like 30 people to 120 odd people. We have now 11 offices in 9 countries. So there's been a very rapid expansion. And typically the conversation is when you have like this rapid expansion happening, structures break. And nothing has broken so far.
But the typical entrepreneur, I feel, is insecure. You go and challenge them.
Okay.
You're like, this can work better in this. And he's like, this is the way it's always been done. We will do it this way. So we have to have both mindsets. You are open to people challenging you. A lot of us are not. We are like, I am the vision carrier, I'm the vision bearer. This is how I see it going ahead. And it can take a different trajectory just by one person introducing their thoughts. And they have the best interest of the company at heart, but you're not careful to listen. So that's why I always think that yours is a typical case study, let's put it that way, for people to study. Because I promise you, we say we're entrepreneurs, we want to grow, but you also have a fixed mindset. This is the way I want to go. This is the way I will move forward. In the year 2026, these are my objectives and my goals. You are just part of you helping me achieve my goals. But I will not go out of my way to implement some of the things you've said because they're not part of our objectives. So I feel sometimes the founders are the problem.
And we looked at it, the first thing is mindset. It's your mindset. So even if you go and coach me, or even if you come to my business to do consulting, the first thing you have to figure out, this founder, what is the mindset? Scarcity versus abundance.
Abundance, yeah.
Those two conversations with a founder makes a very big difference.
Yeah.
How he looks at the whole situation from a mindset point of view. The next thing is the emotional state. Okay? So their founders, their self-worth. Are they in this business? This business give them validation? Okay? Or are they in this business because it's a purpose, it's a contribution, it's a bigger ideation to it. So if you challenge the emotional state, which is their identity, they're going to fight you back, 100%. Okay? So the next thing we look at is strategic. How do they think about what they're doing? This is what we call our founders operating system looking. Strategic. Strategic could mean, how do they look at delegation? How do they look at risk, right? How do they look at timing? How do they look at those kind of things? So if you also need to understand as founder, how strategic are they? Because as you said, did you start this business out of necessity? Or did you start this business because you strategically figured it out and knew where my opportunity was from an innovation point of view or from even a competitive advantage?
But for Gen
new
Zs,
culture,
what you say is what you should do.
Exactly.
That is the bottom line. You say you will do, they will hold you to account. Us, we let things slide, you know. But you say you will do, I will do this for you, or our company does this. 3 months the line, somebody's leaving because you're not, what you've said is not what you're doing.
Which is a great thing, right? Like we want people in this world who are not willing to live with inauthenticity and people who are not doers and people who are not inspirational. So it's a great thing that they don't let it slide. So I think like the standards that organizations have to hold to themselves have become higher because of the Gen Zs, right? Which is a fantastic thing.
Yeah, but I think what the difference between the two generations is velocity of information. The time it moves from you said to I had, it's moving at a rapid pace. To me, the velocity of engagement is at its highest. That's the only difference, to be honest. These guys, if you know the story from the other episode, are people who have grown with me from school. What for me was very interesting was having all these employees. You know, sometimes because you've been owed money for so long, at some point in time you tell the guys, do I sell my house to pay all these salaries? You tell guys, let's stay in together for the next 3 months, we see how it is. To be honest, when you look at the numbers, it was easier to have fired everybody. But because you're humane, you say, let's hold it for 4 months. Those guys are holding something called contracts, paper. You're holding, integrity. Hey guys, we are together in this. What's sad is some of my employees got auctioned. I know some of guys lost his house. They lost their cars. Many things happened to these guys. If you know the story from the other episode, these are people who have grown with me from school. So they believed in me.
If you don't play that balance sheet game properly, you're going to be in a hole very quickly. And so now the question of family, the question of how does family and your other social structures, who are those who help you protect that liability equation in real time, right? Because family could drive that liability in the wrong direction. Church could drive that liability in the wrong direction. Your lawyer could drive that liability in the wrong direction. Your whatever it is. So you now have to build that second circle to protect the liability. So the question I'm asking myself, is this conversation creating liability in the wrong direction? And now I have that filter, it's so clear. And then the third bubble is that you need a structure that helps you put something to save. Because us in the entrepreneur stage, we put everything back into that bubble. And we never put anything to save.
3 years prior, 4 years prior, somebody comes to your office, they beg, this is a cousin of mine, telling me about their friend who's really good, please give them a job. And these are the people who end up suing you. Yeah. It's not the strangers.
No.
It's the people who you're actually helping. If it were up to you, you didn't give them the job. So I have two people, I got sued by 2 employees. And both of them are people that I was helping. Everyone else who was a stranger, yes, they will abuse you and all that stuff, but I understand because they're strangers. But when it comes to somebody that you're trying to help, it really hurts, So anyway,
or somebody didn't have to hire.
Yes.
Even for me, it's like one of my investors brought me this person, intern, who he helped grow. Today she's where she is. She sued me, and I'm wondering, like, would I even have hired you in the first place?
Exactly.
Like, hey. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
But life is like that. Those are the lessons we need to learn.
I was his partner, but of course, a partner who was not really active in business. A partner who had been employed, but now when he fell sick, unfortunately, of course, nobody expects to be sick or to die. Nobody knows the date or the day that they will pass on. And sometimes we assume so many things, especially when you have a partner who does so much, and then your work is just to take care of him and maybe take care of his children and take care of yourself. But the moment he departs, you are left to handle almost everything that he was doing. And there are times I would wonder, why is this guy maybe supposed to take me out, and it says, let's pass through this site, and I'm in the car, he tells me, just follow me and see the kind of questions I ask, what I do, and I'll be there in the car seated, and I'm like, we are supposed to be going out, but now he's taking so long at the construction site. Then the man tells me that, I may not be there, so just come and listen. So you follow, just like a faithful wife, as they say, but deep inside you're like, this guy is wasting my time. Then you just follow, and then you listen, and then from there, now maybe you've taken an...
Do you build the founder's brand, or do you build your business brand first? And what should speak as a brand? Is it quality of your products?
And I remember in one of the businesses, we had a really huge marketing and PR budget. And I remember going to my boss and saying to them, boss, I would like to feature you in all the newspapers and, the TV show. This obviously came from the PR company, And I said, we want to feature you and show how well you've done for the business. And he looked at me straight in the eye. And he said, Ian, it's not about me. It's about our brands. So if we can put the money into our brands and make sure that they're known, but also that they're delivering the promise, that's the most important thing for me. And so that was a seminal moment for me. And it taught me a lot in terms of a brand, of a visibility.
The question of brand building, to me, can fall across 4 different stakeholder groups. What is the brand you're building for customers, whether they be business customers or direct to customers, and what type of customers? But customers is obviously probably the key group when we think about brand. But then investors, right? Who are the shareholders and the investors, capital providers, whether it's friends and family or private equity or the stock market, that's another brand segment or sort of a different category than your customers. For many businesses, your investor base and your customers are totally different, and you have different brand concerns and needs to satisfy those two ends. Third would be staff, I think, your employee brand. What is it that you're selling to talented people to choose to join your organization and stay with your organization? And then finally, partners. That's a big one. It can, again, depend on your business. Is it your suppliers? Is it government? Is it, partner organizations you do business with? All of these things can also be important brand dimensions. And at least in our case, I'd say we have quite different needs across those different.
In Kenya, it's a microcosm of all sorts of talent. I've met really mediocre talent, but also met like really fine talent in this country. And this is something that is appreciated across Africa, but even, we've done amazing sessions for people in the States. And they come back and say, wow, we had a bit of misgivings when we had your company is based in Kenya. And we did the delivery by consultants who are Kenyan. And so I think it's just tying that up, saying Kenya has some amazing talent, and it's possible for us to leverage on that across the global stage.
I think on this whole question, what's important is that when the product is good, when the product's quality, and it's made in Kenya or it's delivered by a team from Kenya, that needs to be followed with the acknowledgement or the celebration that's where it comes from.
I think for me, I would still focus on the primary product and service. And I think the personal brand is just icing on the cake. I mean, I'm a big believer in the need for Africans to own our own brands. I mean, as much as it's great that we can build off of global brands and, piggyback and whatever, I think the problem is we don't own enough of our own brands. And if I look even in the fashion space, a company like Deacon's, when we were starting out, Deacon's was one of the few Kenyan fashion businesses that had been around for 50 years, but they didn't build it around their own brands. They owned franchises of Woolworths, of Mr. Price, of some of these other brands. And then what happens is they brought those brands to the market, they took all the initial risk, they built the market share, and then the companies bought them back and said, okay, actually, you know what, we've changed our business model. We now want to go direct. We want to own those markets directly. And so it was one of the things that I think brought Deacon's down, because they lost all the I think at one point, half of their revenues was coming from Woolworths alone.
So first, great. Thank you again for getting here. And I think, Priscilla, thanks for setting the stage, because that's the conversation I want us to have. Mm-hmm. You need to retrospectively figure out why you're where you are today. Don't say it just happened, because it didn't just happen. We are where we are based on the community that took care of us, the life circumstances that brought you where you are, and the passion in which you instill in what you do is a reflection of that. So we want to live here knowing what is that, okay? And so that others who are looking at us and listening to us can understand that maybe this is part of the journey that they have to go through. I'm just looking at something here, I put some notes, that reads as follows. A poem becomes a protest. A brushstroke becomes a blueprint for healing. A dance becomes defiance against silence. A memory becomes a marketable message. So around that structure, I'd like us to jump in and understand how this works.
When you walk into an art gallery, you will not see one art piece that looks like the next, even if they've gone to the same art school. So I think it's very important that we continue mentoring them.
Fantastic. As you were saying, I was just looking at everything I'm wearing.
So I will take it upon myself that for your next episodes, we ensure that people are wearing made in Kenya. Because we all talk about made in Kenya, but then if you look, it's all European clothing.
I'm wearing Carolina Herrera shoes.
Yes.
I'm wearing John Paul Smith.
Yeah.
I'm wearing here with polo. Hey, the only thing I have here is at least I have one title.
And I'm sure Carolina Herrera was once a young designer
100%.
who did not have the right support, and then they got the right support, they got the right marketing.
100%.
And now you in Kenya are buying their clothes all the way in
I could tell
continent.
you what you're wearing, the the
neck
necklace, the
Yeah.
neck piece. If you took it to a Kalana Herrera shop,
Yes.
because she's into red, she has that cap. We see everything is red. You can see the laces.
Yeah.
It would go tomorrow morning.
Yes.
I'm still moving until somebody tells me, no, you have to stop. No, because many times I've been brought down. Many times people have told me, the economy is bad, things are bad. Just funga tu, just close and go home. I would like to move my space, my little area into what I've always wanted. Yes, COVID may have come, it may have put me down, but I'm still moving on. I'm still moving until somebody tells me, no, you have to stop. No, somebody can't tell me, but maybe life can tell me stop. As for now, we are really trying to work hard with the way the economy is and try to see what we can do to move to maybe the next step. There have been also calls for aggressive social media. Maybe I've delayed this a little bit because of the timelines and what I have, what I'm doing, what I'm working on has been a bit of a delay for me because now you're busy concentrating on this and following clients.
So I guess I feel you're emotional to your brand, which is why it's an emotive.
And then I'm looking at, my studio is called Akachit. Akachit is a Teso word meaning nest, where potential is hatched. So I was hatched from somewhere and I'm taking it on. And you will realize that my paintings, most of them, I paint pregnant women. So somebody asked me why. It is because we are constantly expectant. So I'm looking at it where this Akachit keeps spreading nationally, internationally, because it must outlive us. So it's not just something that I am doing it for 2 minutes. I happen to realize like, oh my God, I have a bigger responsibility more than just creating art and making sales. It's deeper than just making sales. Now I'm realizing I'm using art for healing. I'm using art for therapy. I'm using art for procreation of talent and potential. So that one is open to anyone who is willing to support it at one workshop level or at a program level.
Let's look within your journey as an entrepreneur. When do you feel mentors have played such a critical role? And what role do they play at a startup, at a scale up, at the next point when you're going through crisis, at the point when now you need to also even exit the business? But sometimes it's a mentor who tells you, maybe it's time you exit this business. Maybe it's time you've put in too much, you've got too much risk. Maybe it's time your emotional balance comes in.
I think you've thrown a lot in there, and there's something
that
keeps coming to me, and one of them is, are you mentorable? The first question I want to ask is, if you're listening and you're a founder, are you mentorable? Are you coming in with the perspective of curiosity? Or are you coming with ego? Are you coming seeking for guidance? Or are you coming for approval? There's a big difference there.
And then now as an entrepreneur, one of my greatest mentors as an entrepreneur is Ken Joroge of Cellulant. And he also has a connection with family because when he was starting, my folks were part of his journey as well. So it's like I've inherited that mentorship, that relationship, that social capital. And what Ken helps me do is actually strengthen my vision and be bold. So he asks me very, very, like there was another day he asked me, so now you're just gonna be comfortable here wallowing in mediocrity because the business was stagnating. And he'll invoke, I guess, fire in you to keep moving, to keep pushing forward. And I think what that mentor relationship has done for me is that it's actually starting to touch on spiritual. It's concretized my vision, it's concretized my why, And it's made it, I've become relentless at pursuing that mission because of that relationship. And because of kind of being able to see what he himself has gone through, that admiration, wanting to achieve something similar. That's the role that mentorship has played for me.
The other bit that I've seen very beneficial from a mentor is on the spiritual angle, right? So for me personally, I knew when I went into entrepreneurship that it was more than making money. It was something a little bit more. But it is a mentor who helped me crystallize around why the money aspect is just it's almost like a byproduct of the journey, right? And when that crystallized, it helped reconfigure nearly everything of how I thought about my journey. So I see mentors more in the mindset that Bob just talked about. I see it in maybe the emotional bit where there's a co-founder relationship, and I've experienced that. And I also see it a lot in the in that spirituality of the.
They will probably go on to build companies or run organizations and can have an impact like this. So when you think about the decision Dr. Ferrari made to just push me, one person, and the number of people it has affected, it's profound. So what if all of us did that? What is that number at the bottom? I think we can get to the billion people in Africa for sure. And so for me, the way I see change happening is you start with the person next to you. You transform their life. You give them access to knowledge, capital, and the right rooms. They do that for someone else. They do that for someone else. And before we know it, Africa will stand on her own. We'll be able to make a change. We'll be able to run our own economies. We'll be able to choose leaders because you cannot be controlled by 200 shillings because you have your own, you can stand on your own. I think that's the way to make a change. And that's the approach I'm taking. And that's the commitment I'm making.
Wow, amazing. It's really, for me, I'm very honored to be with you guys here because when I look at closure, as I close this, one question I asked myself as we set up this movement was, what brings me joy?